Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. The huge movement made by the Dryad General immediately attracted the attention of all the lords. What is that? Dryad. What a fast speed. It rushed towards the ogre leader. I saw that in the exclamations of everyone. The tree spirit general seemed to be transformed into a heavy tank, rushing all the way into the encirclement. As soon as the ogre reacted, the tree spirit general rushed in front of it. Boom! A violent explosion spread throughout the valley. The huge body of the ogre was instantly knocked out by this violent impact, crashing into a large piece of debris and burying it completely. The exaggerated scene immediately made the lords' eyes widen and their faces full of shock. So strong. It knocked the ogre leader flying. Hey! What a perverted power! Is this a tier 6 unit? They couldn't believe that an ogre leader with such a terrifying strength would be directly knocked out. How powerful would it be to do this? Could it be true as they guessed, that tree spirit is a 6th order soldier, right? Look, the ogre leader is standing up again. Suddenly, another exclamation sounded. The ogre leader, who was buried in the rubble, roared angrily and got up from the ground again. They were so frightened that they hurriedly backed out, for fear of harming Chiyu. But the next second, something that shocked them even more happened. I saw vines with dark red barbs suddenly appear, tying the ogre leader's heels and bringing it down again. Immediately afterwards, several wooden thorns suddenly appeared, with a pop sound, penetrated its abdomen and carried a large amount of blood. Roar! The ogre leader struggled desperately, tore off the vines on his body, and at the same time, condensed fire in his hands. But immediately, more vines wrapped around its hands along the ground, interrupting its spellcasting, and the barbs on the vines sank deep into its body, frantically sucking its blood. Taking this opportunity, the tree spirit general directly raised his huge arms and smashed them onto the two heads of the ogre leader with a bang. The huge impact force instantly smashed the ogre leader into a daze. Pfft! Finally, a huge wooden thorn penetrated the ogre leader's chest. The struggle of the ogre leader also stagnated and fell to the ground with a bang. Quiet. The whole valley was silent. Everyone opened their mouths and looked at this scene with shock on their faces. The incomparably powerful 6th order monster just died like this? Even if they saw it with their own eyes, they couldn't believe it was true. They were all stunned to the ground, and they could almost put an entire egg in their mouths. Only Lin You, as if he had done a trivial thing, recalled the plants to his side. At the same time, a voice sounded in his mind. Kill the leader of the 6th order ogre and gain 115 points of magic energy. Successfully annihilated the 5th order monster gathering place, obtained the 5th order territory essence X1, and obtained the 5th order humanoid weapon token, Ogre. The 3 6th order arms are shot at the same time, and there is a 10% attribute bonus of Lingxi, so it is not a problem to solve a 6th order monster. And what surprised Lin You was, after killing the ogre leader, he really obtained a tier 5 weapon token, which was directly distributed to his personal space. Looking at the extra items inside, he immediately took them out and carefully observed them in his hands. When the lords saw it, they were shocked and came back to their senses instantly. That's a troop token? It's really a weapon token. The lords exclaimed again and again, almost wanting to rush up to grab the token. But seeing the terrifying plants around Lin You, they couldn't help shrinking their necks and didn't dare to make trouble. After all, this is a ruthless man who can easily kill even 6th order monsters. They can't even deal with 6th order monsters, let alone deal with these 3 terrifying arms. What's the difference between that and courting death? So he could only stare at Lin You and the weapon token in his hand. But he didn't notice the smile on the corner of Lin Yu's mouth. The reason why he took out the token was naturally his intention. Seeing that everyone was staring at him, he knew that his goal had been achieved. Immediately shook the token in his hand, and said loudly, "Who of you is interested in this weapon token? You can exchange magic energy for me, and the one with the higher price will get it." Are you serious? In exchange for magic energy? The lords were shocked, and their eyes suddenly became hot. They don't have other resources, but they have just cleared this monster gathering place, and there is still a lot of magic energy. And being able to exchange magical energy for arms tokens is definitely a surefire business for them. Immediately, a lord of the humanoid type made a loud bid. "Boss, I will offer 3,000 magic energy." 3,000? How about sending beggars? I'll pay 5,000. 5,000 also want to buy arms tokens? I will pay 6,000. I'll give you 7,000. 7,001. 7,002. In the blink of an eye, the price was raised to more than 7,000, and it continued to increase. Lin, you did not expect that these people had so much magical energy. It seems that those who can come here to destroy the gathering place of monsters are not simple people. 10,000 magic energy. Finally, a simple and honest man called the price to more than 10,000 yuan, and the lively bidding scene also followed, and no one continued to increase the price. Obviously, 10,000 mana is their limit. Even if this price is put on the regional channel, I am afraid that few people can get it, and Lin You does not want to go to the regional channel to do such time-consuming and laborious things. So after repeatedly asking no one to increase the price, Lin You came to the man and traded with him directly. All of a sudden, he got another 10,000 magic energy. The man was also very excited when he got the arms token, and said gratefully, "Thank you for your willingness to transfer. I am short of such melee arms right now." "You're welcome." Lin You Gang had harvested so much magic energy, and he was in a very good mood. He glanced at the people around him who were eyeing them, and he continued, "As a bonus for this transaction, I'll leave here with you." "Then thank you, sir." The man looked happy. Of course, he knew how dangerous he was holding the troop token in his hand at this time, and how many people would stare at him. If a big guy like Lin You accompanied him, no one would dare to attack him again. For this, he was very grateful. After thanking him again and again, he followed Lin You with his troops www.lightnovel.com and left the canyon under the unwilling gaze of everyone. When they could no longer be seen, the lords couldn't help but talk. Who was that person just now? The strength is so strong. I'm afraid all the troops around him have reached the 6th rank. Tier 6, it's still the plant department. Shouldn't it be the one on the list? You mean Lin You? The faces of the lords changed, their eyes filled with horror, and they couldn't help but look in the direction Lin You was leaving. And this time, Lin You and the others have also arrived far outside the valley. After making sure that no one was following around, the man said goodbye to Lin You and hurried back towards his territory. By the way, the transaction information seems to show the other party's name. Suddenly, the man thought of something, and hurriedly clicked on the transaction record just now. But when he clicked on the message and saw the name on it, he was stunned. Lin You? The leader of the leaderboard. The man shook his hands and almost didn't stare out his eyes. The person who traded with him just now was actually the one who topped the rankings. Could he be wrong? Shocked, the man checked the names on it carefully, and sure enough, it was Lin You. This time, he finally couldn't calm down. I was so close to the number 1 person just now. Can't believe it. I am afraid that in the entire area, there are not many people who have seen that big guy really? No wonder. No wonder that person is so powerful. He finally understands now. When Lin You returned to the territory, it was already afternoon. Along the way, he also went to other places to hunt and kill a lot of 5th-order monsters, and he didn't rush back until afternoon. At this time, he had collected more than 54,000 magical energy. Even if you rely on the Lotus and ranking rewards, you can collect 60,000 in the last few days, and there is even a surplus. This is also thanks to the gathering place of monsters today, which made him earn more than 10,000 mana at a time, much faster than he expected. It was rare for him to relax, so he stopped going out to hunt monsters, and instead studied things in the territory. The first to bear the brunt is naturally his most important mutation ability. Mutation, mana can be consumed to mutate the designated summoned unit into a random summoned unit of the same level, and retain an original skill. It can be said that most of Lin Yu's achievements are due to this ability. If he hadn't had this ability, he would probably have died in that wave of beasts long ago. After all, not everyone is as unlucky as him. The initial unit randomly arrived at the sapling, and it was so close to the origin of the beast tide. Taking advantage of the time today, I just happened to study this ability carefully. For example, mutating plants with royal blood. Let's try the first tier troops first. Lin You sat cross-legged under the tree of life. After vacating a recruiting slot, start using magic energy to recruit the first tier spirits of plants and trees. The recruitment of tier 1 troops requires 1 point of mana. Do you want to continue? Continue. 1 point of magic energy is completely irrelevant to Lin You now, so he chose to recruit without hesitation. And this first order plant spirit, which he researched with the Tower of Arms a few days ago, has become a recruitable state. I saw a flash of fluorescent light, and a light group only the size of a fist quickly condensed in front of Lin You. Lin You looked at its information and directly used mutation on it. The mutation of the first order troops needs to consume 1 point of mana. Do you want to continue? Yes. Immediately after that, there was another energy flow, and the light group in front of him changed rapidly, and it turned into another kind of plant in no time. A first order sapling. Name, small sapling. Race, plant. Level, tier 1, 0 out of 10. Strength, 0, attack strength. Physical, 8, vitality. Agility, 0, speed. Spirit, 8, skill power. Skills, breath of nature, control of nature. Introduction, the lowest level of plant-type summons, awakening attack ability for unknown reasons, can simply control the power of nature. Have you ever seen a sapling with 2 skills? Anyway, Lin You has seen it. This little sapling not only has its own healing skills, but also inherits the attacking technique of the spirit of plants and trees, because of its mutation ability. Of course, Lin You didn't sit here to make saplings. After secretly complaining, he continued to use the mutation ability on the sapling in front of him. The mutation of the first order troops needs to consume 1 point of mana. Do you want to continue? Yes. With a flash of light, the small sapling turned into a small mushroom, inheriting the natural control skills. Continue to mutate. Shoo. The little mushroom turned into the original sapling again. Continue to mutate. In this way, Lin You sat under the tree of life and kept mutating that first order plant. And the plants in front of him are constantly changing their forms, and their skills are changing. But what he didn't expect was, after spending a full 2 hours and using more than 700 mutations, the first order plants were still the original first order plants, and there was no intention of mutating out of the royal bloodline at all. Is he really so unlucky? Or is it that the plants of his 2 previous royal bloodlines have all had luck? I don't believe it anymore. I'll stop after 300 more attempts. The more Lin You thought about it, the more angry he became. Although 700 or 800 points of mana is not too much, and it won't affect his plan, but he wasted so much time that his legs are almost numb. He got up and exercised his muscles and bones, ate some jerky, and immediately sat down to continue the mutation. As the mutation progressed again and again, his entire body's movements became numb, and he kept repeating mechanical movements. Finally, when the mutation reached more than 970 times and Lin You was about to give up, a different light suddenly lit up. The mutation is successful. The thornvine grass is mutated into a small mushroom, royal family, the current level, first order. Hearing this prompt, Lin You, who had a numb expression, was shocked and overjoyed. After a ray of light passed, a small red mushroom with a crown appeared in front of him. Name, Little Mushroom, Royal Family. Race, Plant. Level, Tier 1, 0 out of 10. Strength, 5, Physique, 8, Agility, 8, Spirit, 10. Skills, Explosive Spores, Demolition Mastery, Explosive Power and Explosion Range are doubled. Introduction, what bad intentions can a little mushroom have? It just likes to set off fireworks. Lin You was extremely excited. He didn't expect that after nearly 1,000 mutations, he finally succeeded in mutating a plant with royal blood. Moreover, it is also the first-order unit of the explosive mushroom. The first-order little mushrooms www.lightnovel.com. Although their attributes are not high, their skills are very powerful. The power and range of the explosion are doubled, which is simply unreasonable. And after awakening the royal bloodline, the skills inherited from other plants were also replaced, leaving only the exclusive skills of 2 mushrooms. Lin, you can already imagine what a terrifying existence this little mushroom will become when it grows up. I'm afraid it is no less than a moving output cannon, and it will be a large piece when it explodes. Lin You is still very satisfied with this little mushroom. Finally, his hard work for so long was not in vain. The only thing to do now is to improve the level of the little mushroom, not to mention catching up to the 6th level, at least to the 4th level or above. In this way, the little mushroom will not die so easily, otherwise he will probably die of distress at that time. And after this practice, Lin You also probably figured out the situation of the mutation ability. There is no way to mutate rare troops, and it is indeed possible to cultivate plants of royal blood through mutation. It's just the probability. Anyway, Lin You doesn't want to do it a second time in a short time. After all, doing that is too time-consuming and energy-consuming, and the mutants are still Tier 1 troops, so they won't be able to fight in a short period of time. As for using high-level troops to mutate, he doesn't even need to think about it. He doesn't have so much magic energy to consume. He was very satisfied with getting a small mushroom, and he didn't dare to ask for too much. Thinking of this, Lin You looked at the little mushroom in front of him and said, "Since you are the royal family among the mushrooms, I will call you the Mushroom Demon King. How about you?" Little mushroom? The night passed quickly. Thanks to the experience of the ancient tree of knowledge for one night, the Mushroom Demon King finally successfully rose to the 2nd rank when the morning came, and turned into a 2nd rank explosive mushroom. Name: Exploding Mushroom. Mushroom Demon King, Royal Family. Race: Plant. Level: Level 2, 0/25. Strength: 10. Physique: 18. Agility: 18. Spirit: 22. Skills: Explosive Spore, Demolition Mastery. Introduction: The King of Mushrooms, his blasting ability has been greatly improved. Don't look at this little guy is only 2nd order. When Lin You got down from the Lord's hut in the morning, he found that it had become one with those plants, and was basking in the sun surrounded by a few 6th order twin mushrooms. At first glance, it looked like a mushroom boss. That picture really made Lin You laugh or cry. As expected of the royal family of mushrooms, the identity is really unusual. And the Mushroom Demon King, who has risen to the 2nd level, also shows that it is different from ordinary explosive mushrooms, and can already move away from the ground. In this way, it saves Lin You a lot of energy, and he can directly take him out for leveling, instead of relying on the slow accumulation of experience from the ancient knowledge tree. So after dealing with the affairs in the territory, Lin You left the territory with the Plant Legion and the Mushroom King. Walking on the road, Lin You casually clicked on the leaderboard, and found that except for him and Yin Tianga, who were still in the top 1 or 2, Bai Haitang and Yan Wu both dropped below the top 10. Even in the top 10, there have been great changes, and a new batch of newcomers have been replaced. It seems that the 2 of them have been busy collecting resources recently, and have not paid much attention to their rankings. After all, it is not easy to collect more than 60,000 magical energy. Of course, this is only for a short period of time. With their abilities, they will catch up sooner or later. And the reason why he and Yin Tianga still maintain the status quo is because they have the 6th tier arms. This alone is enough to crush most people. After watching the rankings, Lin You went on to open the regional channel. After observing for a while, I didn't find any useful information, so I closed the interface directly. Soon, he took the plants to the forest and explored everywhere in the forest. Luckily, I ran into 2 tier 3 carrion dogs within a few minutes of walking. Quick, stop it, don't let it run away. The moment he saw the carrion dog, Lin Yu's eyes lit up, and immediately let the pink enchantresses throw out the vines and surrounded them. The two carrion dogs were obviously low in intelligence. After seeing Lin Yu, a living person, they rushed towards him with a roar, but before he could get far, he was bound by a vine. Immediately afterwards, the king of mushrooms left the team at Lin Yu's signal, and threw a lot of red mushrooms at the two carrion dogs. Boom boom. A series of violent explosions made the surrounding trees tremble, causing the two carrion dogs to scream again and again. The power, as well as the explosion range, are almost on the verge of catching up with the third order level. It's not over yet. The Mushroom Demon King didn't seem to have a good time throwing it, and he jumped off a few mushrooms that had just grown from his body, and threw them into the center of the explosion. Then there was another series of explosions, and the screaming of the two carrion dogs finally stopped abruptly. Kill the third order carrion dog to gain 10 magic energy. Kill the third order carrion dog to gain 9 magic energy. My good guy, he managed to deal with 2 tier 3 monsters so easily. The explosive power of this little mushroom is incredible. When the smoke cleared, Lin Yu took a look at the condition of the two carrion dogs, and the Mushroom Demon King also gained 10 points of experience because of the cross-level kill, which directly increased by nearly half. Not to mention, using this method to level up low-level units is really useful, much faster than expected. As for whether the vines of the pink enchantresses will be affected by the explosion, Lin Yu is not too worried. After all, they are all tier 5 arms, and it is not easy for tier 2 attacks to hurt them. So for the next time, Lin Yu didn't do anything, he continued to search for monsters in the forest with the plants, and leveled up the king of the mushroom demon. As long as it encounters a monster below the 3rd rank, it will be handed over to the Mushroom Demon King to solve it, so that it can accumulate experience. For those of the 3rd rank and above, let other plants be killed to accumulate magical energy. Just like this, we are going all the way to level up. The whole day passed quickly. Lin Yu also received a prompt in his ear. Congratulations, the experience of exploding mushrooms has reached the full value, and you have successfully risen to the 4th level. The voice Val, the Mushroom Demon King, was enveloped by light, and his body gradually changed, turning into a 4th order fission mushroom. Name, Fission Mushroom. Mushroom Demon King, Royal Family. Race, Plant. Level, Tier 4, 0 out of 100. Strength, 50. Physique, 77. Agility, 77. Spirit, 91. Skills, Explosive Mushroom, Explosion Mastery, Fission. Introduction, the King of Mushrooms, his blasting ability has been greatly improved. After this period of attention, Lin Yu found out. Tier 3 and Tier 4 are a huge watershed, because after crossing the 3rd level, the attributes will start to increase exponentially, and they will also comprehend new skills. The Mushroom Demon King, who has risen to the 4th rank, has also realized the fission skill, and his blasting ability has been further improved. At this rate, I believe it won't be long before he can catch up with the large army and become a major output booster for him. Moreover, the Mushroom Demon King is also working very hard today, trying to kill monsters to improve his experience, otherwise he would not be able to level up so quickly. Thinking of this, Lin Yu couldn't help but praise, "Good job, go back and give you a meal." While talking, he reached out and touched the mushroom head of the Mushroom Demon King. The Mushroom Demon King seemed to be very useful. He rubbed his head on Lin Yu's palm a few times, and then jumped up and down happily around him. www.lightnovel.com, just like a little guy with a childish innocence. Lin Yu smiled slightly and looked at the other plants around him. Everyone has worked hard today, let's go back. After speaking, he was surrounded by plants and rushed back towards the territory. Back to the territory. After feeding a few overlord flowers with the corpse he had just obtained, Lin Yu came to the open space and began to prepare food. As soon as he sat down, he received a private message from Manga. The Orb of Migration has been delivered to Yenwu, ready to go to the regional border in a few days. It's better to be in advance. Seeing the content of the private message, Lin Yu's originally relaxed mood suddenly froze. After thinking about it for a while, he immediately replied, "Okay, let me know directly when you leave, and I will rush over as soon as possible." "Okay, the meeting point will be sent to you later by Haitang, and I will be waiting for you there. Also, it's best not to spread the word about this, it will easily cause panic, and it may even be discovered by those above." "I will." Lin You sent another message. The other party didn't reply, and he didn't say anything more. His expression gradually became solemn. This action is very important to him, and he cannot be sloppy at all. He worked so hard for so many days just to pass through the gray fog and escape from this area. If you fail, you will definitely fall into a place of doom and be trapped in this area forever. It is a lie to say that you are not nervous. After taking a few deep breaths, his mood calmed down a little. Then he clicked Kai Yenwu's name and sent him a few messages to exchange the departure plan. The sky outside is also getting darker. The day of departure has finally come. It was less than 5 days before Lin You received the departure message from Yin Tianga, and asked him to hurry over to meet. Daybreak. Lin You woke up early, washed briefly, ate something, and walked down the stairs to the bottom of the territory. At this time, the plants had been waiting there for a long time, as if they knew that something big was about to happen. Lin You took out the precious transition orb from his personal space, his expression extremely solemn. There are only 3 days left until the 1-month period, and after these few days of hard work, he has collected all the materials and magic energy, only this last step is missing. To be honest, he was still very nervous. As soon as he wanted to go through the gray fog to another area, he couldn't help but feel a little flustered, worried that something would happen. But since he has come this far, he has nothing to back down. After thinking about it for a while, he said to the plants, "The ivy, the mushroom demon king, and the ancient tree of knowledge stay in the territory, and the rest will wait outside the territory." There is a spiritual connection. The plants can understand Lin Yu's words, and immediately obey the order, rushing out of the territory in groups. In a blink of an eye, the territory was completely empty, leaving only the 3 plants that Lin You mentioned. The reason why they were left behind was because they couldn't move, and their level was too low to pass through the gray fog. It is obviously more convenient to put it into the orb of migration along with the territory. As for the Overlord flower, he was dismissed many days ago and replaced it with a mobile unit. Lin You stood in the empty territory, looked around, and was filled with emotion. Here, he used to live for half a month. The surrounding plants and trees have long been familiar to me, but now I suddenly want to leave, and my mood is inevitably a little complicated. After looking at the surrounding environment for a while, he came to the bottom of the tree of life, took a deep breath, and directly chose to upgrade the territory. In an instant, the entire territory was enveloped in light, making a loud rumbling sound. The tree of life rose rapidly and grew to a height of 60 meters. The surrounding walls are also heightened and thickened, and there is an additional layer of metal protection on it, which greatly improves the defense. At the same time, a huge force poured into Lin Yu's body, constantly strengthening his body, feeling that the whole person was sublimated. Congratulations, the territory has been successfully upgraded to the 6th level. Because your level has reached the upper limit of this plane teleportation is about to come, please be prepared. Sure enough. After rising to the 6th level, even the prompts became different. Vaguely, Lin You could even feel a suction, as if to him and the entire territory into it. Dare not to waste any more time, he hurriedly left the territory and went outside, and then took out the orb of migration. Do you need to consume 60,000 mana to use the orb of migration on the territory? Note that once the orb of migration is used, some functions of the territory will be suspended until the migration is successful. Sure. Lin You answered without hesitation. Immediately afterwards, the orb of migration in his hand shone brightly and slowly flew above the territory. Under the light of this light, the whole territory began to vibrate, and even the ground made a rumbling sound, flying sand and rocks, which was extremely spectacular. Then a huge space distortion appeared, sucked the territory directly into it, and disappeared in front of Lin You in an instant. Immediately afterwards, the light of the Pearl of Migration faded away and slowly flew back towards Lin You. Lin You took the Pearl of Migration carefully. When he looked at the original location of the territory, there was only a wasteland, and nothing was left. In the Pearl of Migration, there is a reduced version of the territory, the iconic Tree of Life, and a few plants left by him. It was as if it was sealed inside. After the territory was taken in, the suction also disappeared, as if it had never appeared. It seems that the effect of the Orb of Migration's hidden rank breath is working, making Lin You finally feel at ease. He glanced at the remaining 47 plants around him, all of which had reached the 6th rank, all of which had risen one after another in the past few days. With these arms, he didn't have to worry about safety. He waved his hand. Set off. Just like that, Lin You set off with his plant army. 1 person and 47 troops walked mightily in the mountains and forests, rushing in the direction of the endless wasteland. And this time, the entire regional channel also fell out due to the changes in the leaderboards. Damn it. Look, the names of the big guys on the leaderboard suddenly disappeared. What's the matter? Why did Lin Yu's name disappear? And Yin Tianga, and Yan Wu, and even Bai Haitang disappeared. I can't find their names in the following rankings. What's going on here? Could it be that he was killed? How is that possible? Who has the strength to kill them now? And 4 at a time. It's too exaggerated, the disappearance of 4 big bosses at a time. Could it be that something big is going to happen? The 4 top 10 resident bosses on the list disappeared at the same time, which was extremely sensational, causing countless people to exclaim. The news in the regional channel is like a frying pan, frantically popping up. You must know that among the people who disappeared, there were 2 giants in the 1st or 2nd place. They just disappeared like this. Who would dare to believe it? But the fact was in front of them, so they had to believe it was true. For a while, everyone is guessing what happened. www.lightnovel.com and inquired about the 4 people at the same time. Some lords are gloating at the misfortune, shouting that the list is finally empty. After all, ever since the list appeared, the top few have been occupied by Lin You and the others, crushing the people below them to the point of being breathless, and there is no chance of any success at all. Now that Lin You and the others have disappeared, instead, they have been fulfilled, and they have been squeezed into the list at once, and they have seen the hope of winning the 1st place. And just when there was a lot of discussion on the regional channel. At this time, Lin You had already brought the plant army to the endless wasteland and joined Yan Wu, who was waiting there. How is it? Are you all ready? Seeing Lin You, Yan Wu asked directly. And beside him, there are 26th order arms, and it seems that during this period of time, the arms have been upgraded. It's ready, let's go, we have to hurry up and meet them. Lin You nodded towards Yan Wu, and then hurried to the east. As early as when they came, the 2 of them communicated through private messages to understand the general situation of each other, so there was no need to explain too much. Moreover, it is still a long way from the regional border, and it will take a lot of time to get there. This is also the reason why they set off early. Walking on the road, Yan Wu looked at the troops next to Lin You in surprise. Although he was mentally prepared, when he saw that there were more than twice as many Tier 6 troops as him, he still couldn't help being secretly shocked. Sure enough, it is not unreasonable to occupy the 1st place for so many days. With this strength alone, who can surpass it in the entire region? By the way, how did you meet Yin Tianga? On the way, Yan Wu couldn't help but ask. I don't even know him. He contacted me when I won the 1st place. Lin You shrugged. He actually doesn't know much about this Yin Tianga. The reason why he chose to cooperate with him is to increase the chance of passing through the gray fog area. For this reason, he also specially brought Yan Wu into the gang. First, he added allies and achieved checks and balances. Second, he had also cooperated with Yan Wu, and the relationship was not bad. Seeing Yan Wu asking this, Lin You also followed the trend and asked, "What? Do you know him? I've only seen it once. Yan Wu replied, just the time he sent me the orb of migration before, we had a few words by the way. Then what kind of person do you think he is? It's hard to say, I feel that he is hiding so deeply that it is a little hard to guess. Yan Wu said with a frown. When Lin You heard the words, he fell into deep thought. Judging from the brief contact in the past few days, this Yin Tianga is very methodical and purposeful. Even if he was brought in, he would still be the first. When he showed his true strength, he would obviously only do things that were beneficial to him. Combined with Yan Wu's description, he couldn't help but wonder what kind of person this Yin Tianga was. And also that by Haitang. As a woman who has been in the top few since the beginning of the list, her strength should not be underestimated, and she also knows Yin Tianga, which is worth noting. That's all. The two were chatting while rushing on their way. Walking on the wasteland with troops, the speed is not slow. Along the way, many lords who passed by found them. All of them were frightened by the terrifying troops around them and fled far away, not daring to provoke them. Not to mention those territories. Seeing Lin You and the others approaching, he was immediately scared and retreated into the territory, leading all the troops in a fighting stance. However, what the lords didn't expect was that Lin You and the others were really just passing by, and they didn't even look at them. When the two of them gradually moved away and could no longer see each other, several neighboring lords gathered together with fear written all over their faces. Who are those two guys? Why are there so many troops around? This is the first time I've seen such exaggerated units. Don't they need to keep units stationed in the territory? When they passed by near my territory just now, I almost suffocated. Shouldn't those be all Tier 5 troops? Tier 5? Can Tier 5 have such a strong aura? It can't possibly be 6th order, right? After chatting for a long time, none of these lords came up with a reason. After all, the large army has just started to rise to the 5th rank one after another. How could someone cultivate so many 6th rank troops? Anyway, they don't want to believe it. After chatting for a while, they left in a hurry, and hurried back to their respective territories with the troops, just as if there was an illusion. The other side. Lin You and Yan Wu stopped and walked along the way, and encountered many monsters on the way. However, it was easily solved by the troops around them, and it didn't take much time. It was not until the sun was about to set in the afternoon that a flaming volcanic area in the distance finally came into their eyes. It's a volcanic area at the end of the wasteland. Yan Wu's eyes lit up instantly. Volcanic zone? Lin You looked puzzled. Yes, the endless wasteland is surrounded by a volcano. I heard that as long as you pass through the volcanic area, you can reach the border of the region. Yan Wu hurriedly explained. Hearing this, Lin You suddenly realized, so that's the case. If that's the case, then let's find a safe place to spend the night near the entrance of the volcano, and continue to set off tomorrow morning. Yan Wu, that's right. It is said that this volcanic area stretches out for hundreds of kilometers. At our speed, I am afraid it will take a long time to pass through. Having said that, the two did not stop any longer and continued to rush towards the edge of the volcanic area. When the sun completely went down, they finally found a huge cave at the foot of the mountain. After some discussion, it was decided to spend the night there first, and let the troops take turns to watch the night. After all, at night, many monsters will come out to hunt for food, and it is always better to have a safe place. And because of the proximity to the volcanic area, the temperature around here is much higher, and it is not afraid of cold at night. It was probably too tiring after a day's journey. Lin You and Yan Wu briefly talked about the next plan, ate something, and went to the corner of the cave to rest. Silent all night. The two who woke up left the cave and continued on their way. Soon, they took their troops into the volcanic area full of scorched earth. The high-level monsters that appeared around also began to increase, and there were also monsters of the 5th and 6th orders from time to time. It seems that these monsters will also be upgraded. Some time ago, when those people came over, there were no 6th order monsters. Yan Wu casually killed a rushing monster and said, Beside him, Lin You instructed the plants to clean up the remaining monsters, and some frowned. His plant-type units are more afraid of flames. And the volcanic area is the place where the flame energy is most prosperous. Although his troops are not yet harmed, they are also slightly sluggish, and they seem to be very repulsive to this area. He said, "There's no other way. We can only speed up our progress. Otherwise, being dragged down by these monsters will only waste more time, Lingxi." The voice fell, and Lingxi, who stayed on top of the tree spirit leader, led the wood spirit legion to fly out, and the staff in his hand kept waving. In an instant, a burst of fluorescent light spilled out, wrapping the plants inside, and restoring their spirits instantly. "This is a healing skill?" Yanwu said in surprise. "Well, plant-type units can not only attack." Lin You smiled slightly. When Yanwu heard the words, a trace of envy suddenly appeared in his eyes. Although his elemental units have powerful attacks and a wide range of long-range attacks, their survivability is not outstanding. Once the core in the body is broken, it will dissipate directly. Unlike Lin Yu's plants, even if the body is damaged, it can quickly recover and grow again. This is probably the advantage of the plant system. With the healing skills of the wood spirits, their progress was much easier, and there was no downsizing. I don't know how many monsters I killed and how many roads I drove. Until the evening was approaching, the unchanging volcano finally gradually disappeared, turning into a vast plain filled with mist. At first glance, I could vaguely see the gray sky, which completely covered most of the sky. Gray fog. The moment he saw the gray area, Lin You was shocked, and immediately took the plants away from the volcanic area and stepped into the plain. Yanwu followed closely, his eyes full of excitement. In order to get here, they walked all the way, almost without any stop, and spent 2 whole days. This is still when their bodies are strengthened and their speed is extremely fast. Fortunately, their territories are relatively close to here, and they finally arrived here before January. Just then, a voice suddenly came from a distance. "You are finally here. I have been waiting for you for a long time. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic." Tianga? Lin You didn't seem surprised when he saw the handsome young man in front of him. Because they agreed to meet here from the beginning. And beside Tianga, there was a frosty beauty, which should be the legendary Bai Hai Tang. Soon, the 4 joined together. Tianga took the lead in saying, "It's the first time we met. It's a pleasure to meet you. You must be Lin You, right?" As he said that, there was a kind smile on his face, which made people look down on their guards. However, Lin You had already learned about Tianga's person from Yanwu on the way, and he was not confused by this appearance, and replied directly, "It's me, that's right, this is Yanwu, you should have met before. I did see it before, when I gave away the Pearl of Migration." Tianga smiled warmly, and Yanwu nodded, then looked at the woman beside him, and introduced, "Bai Hai Tang, you should also know." "That's natural." Lin You and the others looked at Bai Hai Tang and smiled kindly. However, they responded with a cold face. It can be seen that this Bai Hai Tang has a cold temperament and doesn't like to talk much. Even to Tianga, they are extremely cold, and it doesn't seem like the friendship they imagined. At the same time, Lin You also secretly observed the troops around them. Sure enough, as shown in the ranking, the demon type and the angel type. This is the first time Lin You has seen demons. Behind Tianga, there are more than 32 winged demons with tall stature and long horns on their heads, all of which have reached the 6th rank. Bai Hai Tang's angel legion was slightly weaker, but there were also 26th order ranks, and the 2 of them together were not much weaker than Lin You and Yanwu. But if you talk about the number of tier 6 arms, Lin You naturally has the most ancient trees of knowledge, 47. So when they saw the plants beside Lin You, Tianga and Bai Hai Tang also showed a bit of surprise, and gave Lin You one more look. "Okay, don't just stand here, it's time to get down to business." At this time, Yanwu interjected and interrupted their chat. When several people heard the words, their expressions suddenly froze. They came here naturally not to chat, but to work together to pass through the gray fog area and escape from this area. Now that there is only 1 day left until the 1-month period, there is no time for them to waste. Thinking of this, Tianga said earnestly, "Then come with me, there is a suitable place to stay there. Let's rest there for a night, and when the morning dawns, we will immediately set off for the gray fog area." "You two came here first, did you find anything?" Lin You followed behind Tianga and couldn't help asking. "There is indeed a point." Tianga nodded. "I took troops deep into the plain once before, and found that the fog became thicker as I went inside, and there was an area about 20 kilometers away from here, which was completely shrouded in fog. I don't know what's going on inside." "Have you seen it?" Yan Wu interjected. "I went in, but I quickly exited again." "Why?" Lin You and Yan Wu were taken aback. "Because the fog inside is very corrosive, and there are constant winds, fires, and lightning. I almost lost a 6th order unit in less than a minute after I entered." Tianga had a solemn expression on his face, and he was even slightly afraid. "This?" Hearing his words, Lin Yu and Yan Wu were also shocked. Tier 6 arms only lasted for less than a minute? This gray fog is too exaggerated. Even Bai Haitang on the side is frowning slightly, showing a trace of solemnity. It seems that the news is right. You can't pass through until the gray fog weakens. At this moment, Lin Yu has completely believed what the letter said, and has no doubts. "Indeed." Tianga replied in a deep voice, "The news we received also said the same, so when the time comes, we will have to rely on you and Bai Haitang's troops for treatment, and Yan Wu and I will be responsible for dealing with other possible incidents." "Surprise, what do you think?" "I have no problem." Yan Wu answered first. "Same." Bai Haitang's answer was very brief. Lin You thought about it for a while, and then said, "Yes, anyway, there are quite a few of my units that have healing skills." "Then it's decided. Let's discuss the specific plan together tonight and set off early tomorrow." After all, a few people, led by Tianga, came under a giant rock that could shelter from the wind and rain, and began to prepare for tomorrow's action. Several people have a common goal, and they get along with each other without any problems. Silent all night. When the early morning sun shone on the earth, the tranquility on the plain was suddenly broken by a loud boom. Lin Yu and the others, who were still sleeping, were suddenly awakened. "What's the matter? What happened?" Yan Wu hurriedly ran out from under the rock formation and came to the outside of the plain. Lin Yu and the others followed closely behind. However, the next second, they were shocked by the scene in front of them. "I saw that at the end of the line of sight, a gray fog suddenly appeared in the sky, covering the sky and sweeping towards them. Vaguely, one after another of terrifying lightning could even be seen in the gray fog, smashing to the ground, making a loud rumbling sound and accompanied by a violent gust of wind and flames. The whole sky is like a world-shattering catastrophe." "This, is what they said, is the gray fog getting weaker?" Tianga's eyes widened in shock, and he could no longer maintain his past gentleness. Lin Yu frowned, and his heart was already shocked to the point where it couldn't be added. A few of them, they really want to pass through such a terrifying place. "What should we do? Are we still going?" Yan Wu asked worriedly. "Don't go. Do you want to stay in this area forever?" Tianga said through gritted teeth. "This?" Yan Wu opened his mouth, but was unable to refute. Indeed, they have only one chance. If they miss it, they will only have a dead end and no other choice. Instead of worrying about this and that, it is better to fight and maybe get a chance. Lin Yu chose to come here, and naturally he knew this. So he didn't hesitate, and said directly, "Since this is the case, let's go. Whether it's life or death, it depends on what happens. Go." When the words fell, they went back to pack their things, and then set off towards the plain with their respective troops. At this time, the plains were already enveloped by gusts of wind, and lightning and thunder in the distance were also getting closer and closer to them, quickly approaching them. When Lin Yu and Yin Tianga saw this, they immediately dispatched giant tree spirit generals, earth elements, and demons to stand in front of them to share the pressure for them. Bai Haitang was in command of the angel troops, and they blessed shields in front of them to resist the invasion. A group of 4 went deep into the plain and gradually disappeared into the surging mist. More than an hour later, Lin Yu and the others finally crossed the plain and came to the deepest part of the plain, in front of a gray area with lightning, thunder, and fire. The terrifying oppression that was approaching suddenly made them stop and stand in place. Is this the legendary gray fog that separates the two regions? Lin Yu faced the violent wind around him, his face full of shock. Although he had heard Yin Tianga describe the situation in the foggy area before, when he saw it with his own eyes, he was deeply shocked by the scene in front of him. I saw that less than 100 meters in front of them, an endless gray surged as far as the eye could see, and lightning flashed with a crackle. Even the ground was covered with lava and fissures, and pillars of fire continued to rise into the sky, and there was a booming sound. It's like a purgatory on earth. After hesitating for a moment, Lin Yu let the Dryad general with the strongest vitality enter the gray fog area to try it out. Sure enough, as Yin Tianga said, his body began to corrode slowly. If he ignored it, he might not be able to support it for even 10 minutes. The corrosiveness of the gray fog is indeed much weaker than before. Yin Tianga said solemnly, my demon should be able to stay for a few minutes. My elemental unit can absorb the earth element and fire element to restore itself, and it can also last a little longer. Yan Wu pondered for a while. I can disperse and purify. Bai Haitang said rarely. Lin Yu heard the words and immediately said, if that's the case, let's go, we're running out of time. The duration of the orb of migration is only 5 days. It is now the 3rd day. If they can't go through the gray fog to another area within 5 days, there is only a dead end waiting for them. Yin Tianga and others naturally know this. After taking a deep breath, they slowly walked into the gray fog with their respective troops. Lin Yu did the same and walked in with the plants. And as they continued to move forward, gradually, Lin Yu began to feel a strong sense of oppression coming from all directions, accompanied by bursts of tearing and squeezing, as if the whole world was rejecting him. What's even more terrifying is that the surrounding gray fog began to erode his body, burning his skin, and the burning pain was getting stronger and stronger. Boom! Suddenly, a pillar of fire rushed out not far from them, and the huge heat instantly rushed to their face. Speed up, you can't stay in a place like this for too long. Yin Tianga and the team shouted in shock, gradually increasing his speed. The 4 of them dashed all the way under the siege of the troops, shuttled between the lava pools and the cracked earth. There were thunder and lightning explosions in their ears, and the surrounding fire pillars began to increase and become more and more violent. At this moment, a white light suddenly lit up in the sky. A huge thunderbolt appeared and fell straight towards them. Lin Yu and the others changed their expressions, and they didn't have time to react. The thunder and lightning slammed into a 6th-order earth element beside Yan Wu with a click. In an instant, the earth element was split into fly ash, and not even the was left. This. Yan Wu's eyes widened and he looked at all this in horror. A 6th-order unit just died like this? If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have even thought he was blinded. Even Lin Yu and the others were extremely astonished. Come on! Lin Yu shouted in shock, and they instantly came back to their senses. He didn't dare to stay, but he accelerated his speed and hurried to a deeper place. Along the way, there were more and more lava columns of fire and lightning, and even arcs began to appear on the ground, making them have to avoid them far away. However, no matter how careful they were, troops continued to die on the lava and lightning, and even Lin Yu lost 3 6th-order plants. Careful! Suddenly, Bai Haitang exclaimed from the team. They were less than 20 meters away, and the space was actually split open, and black tentacles rushed out of the crack and hit them straight. Space cracks! Lin Yu was startled and stopped, and immediately ordered the Dryad general to stand in front of him. At the same time, Yan Wu's wall of flames, Yin Tianga's dark devouring, and Bai Haitang's holy light judgment fell, blasting out in front of the team, knocking out the black tentacles. Take this opportunity. They immediately changed direction and bypassed the crack in space, but gradually, they found out. The surrounding space cracks began to become more and more, and black tentacles continued to stick out from them, trying to pull them into the cracks. Yin Tiange didn't pay attention, and the two sixth-order demons around him were entangled in tentacles, dragged into the space crack in a roar, and instantly shattered by the turbulent flow of the crack. Others suffered heavy losses, and troops continued to lose their lives. The space here is too unstable, everyone be careful. Lin You reminded loudly. At this time, there were only 40 soldiers left beside him. As long as it is a plant with healing skills, all of them are working hard to heal the injuries of them and other units, and the rest is to help defend against tentacles from all directions. The angel sacrificial troops around by Haitang were also very busy, constantly singing holy light magic, healing and blessing them and dispelling pain. Since Yin Tiange's demons couldn't receive holy light magic, they could only retreat to the sides and were responsible for blocking the attacks on both sides. The four of them dashed all the way and continued to go deep inside. But at this time, a space crack appeared without warning behind by Haitang, who was commanding the troops. Not good. Hurry up and escape. Lin You and the others were shocked. But before they could be rescued, Bai Haitang's waist and abdomen were already cut open by a crack, and she screamed and blood splashed. Fortunately, the vines around Lin You arrived in time, tied by Haitang, who fell to the ground, pulled her over, and hurriedly fled the direction of the space crack. Are you okay? Lin You hurriedly asked the plants around her to heal her wounds. At the same time, slices of holy light from the angelic priests shone down, wrapping her inside. Yan Wu and Yin Tiange also rushed over quickly. Bai Haitang angels are very important for their healing and protection buffs. If something happens to her, it will definitely increase the difficulty for them to pass through the gray fog. What's more, they are now teammates of the United Front, and they will lose everything. No matter who has an accident, it will be a fatal blow to them. I'm fine, cough. Bai Haitang coughed up a few mouthfuls of blood from her mouth. www.lightnovel.com. With the combined treatment of the plants and the angels, she finally saved her life and slowly woke up. And the wound on the waist has completely stopped and is slowly healing. When the three of Lin You saw this, they immediately showed joy. Just let my plant take you with me first. It's inconvenient for you to move around like this, and I'll talk about it when the injury heals. Lin You made a decisive decision, and asked the blood demon girl to put away the thorns, weaved a simple stretcher with vines, and took Bai Haitang along with her. Bai Haitang also knew that she was seriously injured, so she did not reject Lin Yu's kindness. Thanks. She gave Lin You a grateful look. If Lin You hadn't rescued her in time, she would have been caught in the crack of space long ago, and she would have died without a place to be buried. This is also the first time for her to look at Lin You with the right eyes. Just like that, the team set off again. Continue to go deeper into the gray fog area. With Bai Haitang's lessons learned, they became even more cautious. As soon as they found something wrong, they would stay away immediately and never take risks. However, the vastness of the gray fog area is far beyond their imagination. He has been walking in the gray fog for nearly a day, and he has not seen any signs of passing through the gray fog. On the contrary, the surrounding thunder and lightning flames began to become more and more terrifying, and space cracks appeared more and more frequently. Even to the point of appearing 2 or 3 at a time. Look! What is that? Suddenly, an exclamation from Yan Wu came from the team. Originally, he was still alert to the people around him, but his spirit was suddenly shocked. Then, in the gray fog ahead, a shadow as huge as a mountain appeared. What is that? Yin Tiange looked at the huge shadow that almost covered half of the sky in front of him, his face full of fear, and he couldn't help slowing down. Dark shadow? Lin You and the team was stunned for a moment, and suddenly recalled the news he heard before, as if he also mentioned a shadow as big as a mountain. Is that what you're talking about? What should I do? Do you want to move on? Yan Wu asked aloud. Of course we have to move forward, we have already arrived here, do we still have a way back? Lin You said in a deep voice. Indeed, they have all come to such a deep place now, and whether they advance or retreat, they have to face countless dangers. Since it's all the same, it's better to fight together, and maybe find a way to survive. Of course, Wu also knew this, and his expression suddenly stunned. Okay. Then let's move on. The four looked at each other, nodded to each other, and continued to speed up, rushing in the direction of the shadow. But gradually, they realized something was wrong. Because in the direction they were heading, bursts of snoring began to be heard, extremely loud, like thunder, and even the thunder in the sky was covered up. There's something wrong, everyone, be careful. Lin You reminded in a low voice. I don't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the huge black shadow in front of him seemed to be moving, and it was moving along with the snoring. And as they continued to move forward, the shadows ahead became clearer and larger. Finally, they came under the shadow and finally saw the true face of the shadow. This is... Lin Yu's pupils shrank suddenly, and he was in shock. What did he see? A toad taller than a mountain. Just lying on the road they were traveling, snoring. However, what shocked Lin Yu the most was the information that appeared in front of him. Name, world-swallowing beast. Race, chaos. Level 10. Strength? Physical? Agility? Spirit? Skill? Introduction, an ancient monster born in chaos, with the ability to swallow the sky. A 10th-order monster. This exaggeratedly large toad is actually a 10th-order monster. Lin Yu was shocked. He didn't expect to encounter such a terrifying monster in such a place, and he couldn't help but step back. What is the concept of 10th order? I'm afraid that one slap will kill them all. I can't even resist. How come? Yin Tianga and Wu also opened their mouths wide, their faces full of horror. Even the unsmiling Bai Hai Tang, with her beautiful eyes trembling violently, subconsciously reached out her hand to cover her mouth. The most terrible thing is that this toad is lying in the middle of the valley, between the two rows of peaks, completely blocking their way forward. What to do? The four looked at each other. The rock wool in the mountains on both sides went out for an unknown distance, and it was obviously impossible to climb over it, let alone in this dangerous and terrifying zone. It seems that I can only take a gamble. I'll go around and try it. Lin Yu took a deep breath and his expression was unprecedentedly solemn. Once the world-devouring beast is awakened, it will be a disaster for them, and they can't help being careless. After discussing in a low voice, they nodded to each other and began to slowly walk towards the canyon with the rest of the troops. As they kept getting closer, the purring of the world-devouring beast became louder and louder, causing their scalps to feel numb, and the atmosphere became extremely tense. Especially when observed at close range, the body of this world-swallowing beast is even bigger. The overwhelming sense of oppression made them almost breathless. Fortunately, because of the terrain in the canyon, the thunder and lightning could not fall down, and even the lava pools on the ground were smoothed by the huge body of the swallowing beast. They held their breath like this, leaned their backs to the corner, and moved into the canyon bit by bit from the side of the world-swallowing beast. Bai Hai Tang, whose injuries were almost healed, also walked down the ground, leading his troops to enter. A group of 4 people, with their own troops, walked cautiously on the edge of the canyon. When they were closest to the world-swallowing beast, they were even about to stick to its belly, so frightened that their hearts were raised to their throats. Fortunately, the troops all obeyed the command, and nothing went wrong. When the beast's stomach shrinks back, it quickly passes through, daring not to stop. Hu dash. The thunder-like grunt still echoed in the canyon. Every second feels like a century is long and painful. I don't know how long it took, until Lin Yu felt a little sore and stiff in his neck. The vision in front of them finally gradually broadened, and it had reached the head of the huge body of the swallowing beast. It's almost there. The 4 looked at each other with joy, then immediately held their breath and moved on. But at this time, without any warning, the thunderous snoring suddenly stopped and disappeared. The four people who were still walking were stunned for a moment, and then their expressions changed wildly. When he raised his head, he saw that the huge eyes of the world-devouring beast opened at some point, staring closely at their group of little ants, with a strong killing intent in their eyes. That seemingly real killing intent immediately made Lin You and the others feel cold all over. The fluke, which was still cherished at first, was instantly shattered. Escape. Almost at the same time, all four of them reacted in the same way and ran frantically towards the exit of the canyon. At the same time, there was a loud rumbling sound behind him, and the entire canyon began to vibrate violently. The huge body of the swallowing beast slowly got up, accompanied by the flying sand and rocks in the sky. Cuck! Only to hear a loud cry resounding through the sky. The world-devouring beast suddenly opened its big mouth that seemed to swallow everything, and shot out a tongue that was extremely terrifying. Boom! Lin You and the others didn't have time to react at all. A violent explosion had already exploded behind them, and those slow-running troops, along with the land, were instantly crushed and rolled up by the tongue of the swallowing beast, and swallowed them in their mouths. Just one hit. It instantly killed nearly half of their Tier 6 troops. They were so shocked that their faces turned pale, and they fled into the distance desperately. However, in the next second, there was a loud cry of the swallowing beast behind him, accompanied by a terrifying sound of breaking the air. The holy light shines. Hearing Bai Haitong's coquettish shout, the angels beside her raised their weapons one after another, and a dazzling white light erupted, illuminating the outside of the entire canyon as if it were daylight. The world-devouring beast, who had been staring at them, was suddenly blocked by this dazzling light, and his tongue changed direction and swept towards them. Those troops could not avoid it, they were directly thrown by the tongue, and instantly turned into fly ash, and even the angels in the air were smashed into light spots, and they died tragically on the spot. Run away! Taking this opportunity, the few people did not hesitate, and continued to run away, quickly fleeing the direction of the canyon, leaving the canyon behind in a blink of an eye. And what makes them extremely happy is that the world-devouring beast seemed to be garrisoning something, and did not leave the canyon to chase after them, so that they finally escaped. After running on the plain for more than 10 minutes, after confirming that the world-swallowing beast was not chasing after him, he gradually slowed down and stopped. Look next to them, there are not 1 out of 10 arms. He actually lost half of it in the 2 attacks just now. Even with Lin You, there are only Lingxi and the other 5 units left. How is it? Are you all okay? Lin You looked at Yan Wu and the others beside him. Fine. Yan Wu gasped and shook his head. It's the same with me, but I've lost a lot of troops. Tian Yu agreed, frowning and looking beside him. After the battle just now, he lost almost all his troops, and only 4 sixth-order demons remained. The situation of Yan Wu and Bai Haitong wasn't much better, they only had 3 or 4 arms left, which was simply terrible. They didn't expect that the gray fog area between the regions would hide so many dangers. Along the way, it could be described as a near-death experience. It was a fortune to be able to escape from the attack of the 10th-order monster. Let's go, this should be the center of the gray fog, we'd better leave quickly. After a short rest, they continued on the road with the only remaining troops. And after passing through the canyon, the surrounding lava lightning and space cracks also reappeared, so they had to be more careful, taking every step very cautiously. The 4 of them walked away, slowly disappearing into the thick gray fog. After one day, the other end of the foggy area. Inside a foggy forest. A 5-person team appeared there, investigating the situation in this gray fog area. Brother Guang, there seems to be nothing in here. In the team, a young man with insect troops said behind him. Nothing at all? Fuck. I made a trip for nothing, I thought it was something precious. The man known as Brother Guang looks to be in his 30s, looks like a ruffian, and carries a beast-type soldier by his side. The reason why they came here was because they saw a sudden change in the sky, and a large amount of gray fog suddenly appeared. They came here specially because they thought that some treasure was born. In the end, I didn't expect that the baby was not found, but instead lost a few pathfinding troops, so that they dared not approach the gray fog for half a minute. The fog here is a bit mysterious. It won't take long for the 5th-tier troops to enter. Brother Guang, I think we should leave quickly? Another young man said, a little scared. The appearance of this gray fog is so strange that even the 5th-tier troops can't resist staying in such a place. Ghosts know what dangers will be encountered. Brother Nugguang also seemed to know that it was not advisable to stay here for a long time, so he glanced at the gray fog with a sullen face, and finally decided to evacuate. Brother Guang, look! There seems to be someone over there. But at this moment, an exclamation suddenly came from the side. Brother Guang, who was about to speak, and several other people all looked into the distance in unison. It happened that 3 men and 1 woman appeared at the gray fog border with a few troops. They looked very embarrassed and had a lot of injuries on their bodies. The moment he saw those people, Brother Guang's eyes immediately lit up. I didn't expect other people to come here. It seems that all the troops are almost dead. Let's go. Let's go over and grab their resources. Just now, their attention was focused on the gray fog, and they didn't see how the 3 men and 1 woman appeared there. They just thought they were just like them, they just came from other places, and they went through a big battle. Seeing that the other party was so embarrassed, Brother Guang's group suddenly became malicious, and slowly surrounded them with dozens of troops, and gradually showed a cruel smile on their faces. And this time, Lin You and the others, who had just escaped from the gray fog area, also noticed Brother Guang and the others who were approaching, and their expressions gradually sank. It seems that they are all 5th order. How to solve it? Yan Wu asked softly. Silence. Lin Yu's expression turned cold. Although they just passed through the gray fog area, they escaped from death. But it is not something that just a few 5th order lords can bully. What's more, they must not let others know about the things they crossed from other areas. Since these people want to hit their minds, they don't need the slightest sympathy. Glancing at each other, he immediately gave orders to the few remaining 6th order units around him. In an instant, the holy light shone, the vines fluttered, and 2 6th order demons and 2 6th order earth elements suddenly rushed towards Brother Guang and the others. Huh? How dare you attack us first? Come on, brothers. Let's get rid of them. Seeing Lin Yu and the others taking the lead, Brother Guang suddenly laughed. He only wanted to deal with such a huge 5th order team with only so few troops? It's ridiculous. With a loud shout, dozens of troops around him surrounded Lin Yu and the others. However, in the next second, something that made them extremely terrified happened. I saw that the 2 demons suddenly condensed black ons in their hands, and slammed them into the ranks of their troops. Boom! The black light exploded, causing the entire ground to vibrate violently, and it actually blew up more than a dozen 5th order troops to death on the spot. It's not over yet. After the demon launched the attack, the other 2 earth elements followed, raising their arms high, and suddenly smashed to the ground with unparalleled power. Boom! The whole ground cracked instantly, and more than a dozen troops that rushed in front were directly crushed to death on the spot. At the same time, a few swoops came from the air, and arrows of holy light penetrated the bodies of those soldiers, and they were killed on the spot before they could even let out a scream. Brother Guang and the others stared at all of this with wide eyes, watching the troops of the troops that were constantly dying under attack, with deep horror in their eyes. Then Brother Guang seemed to think of something, and suddenly his whole body was shocked. No. This is not Tier 5, it's Tier 6. These are all Tier 6 units. Run away. At this moment, Brother Guang still doesn't know that he has kicked the iron plate, and his heart has long been overwhelmed by the stormy waves. Level 6. All are Tier 6 troops. How can that be? When did such terrifying characters appear in this area? And 4 at a time. How dare you think too much? I ran away quickly towards the outside of the forest. A few younger brothers around him were also awakened by his call just now, and they fled in panic, not even caring about their own troops. However, what they didn't think about was that several vines appeared at their feet just after they ran out, and wrapped around their feet. The body that was fleeing fell to the ground and was dragged back by the vines. No. I don't want to die. Please. Please forgive me. What? The sound of begging for mercy stopped abruptly. The four of them were all pierced through their chests by the wooden thorns summoned by Ling You, and blood spilled on the ground. Together with their remaining troops, they all wailed and died. A battle with a completely unequal number was solved so easily. Lin You glanced around and made sure that nothing else was missed before saying, "It seems that we have really successfully arrived at another area. Yeah, I'm finally here." Yanwu took a deep breath, his voice trembling. In order to pass through the gray fog area, they went through danger and made so many preparations. Now that I finally managed to get rid of the original regional blockade, it would be a lie to say that I am not excited. At this time, the troops around them were running out. Except for Lin You Lingxi, plus 2 blood demon princesses and a wood demon dragon, the other 3 only had 2 sixth-order troops left, which was extremely tragic. I just don't know if this area is blocked. At this moment, Yin Tiange suddenly said with a solemn expression. As soon as these words came out, Lin You and the others changed their expressions one after another, and the atmosphere that was supposed to be relaxed suddenly became heavy. I'm afraid there is no way to distinguish this. Yanwu frowned deeply. The sixth order I heard about disappeared directly. No one knows whether it was teleported to the primitive continent or captured and swallowed by those people. Then what should we do? Bai Haitang asked in a rare voice. In a word, Yin Tiange and Yan Wu were immediately speechless. Seeing this, Lin You suddenly smiled bitterly. Do you think we have another choice? The 3 of them were stunned, and their expressions gradually darkened. Indeed, they have all reached the 6th rank now. The effect of the Orb of Migration only had less than a day left. Once the effect of the Orb of Migration wears off, the teleportation will start again. In such a short time, it is impossible to collect a second material. They have no other choice. Yin Tiange smiled awkwardly. That's what I said. Since that's the case, then I won't say more nonsense. I'll find a place to free up the territory first. Let's do it together. After all, this is not the original area. I'm afraid something will happen if I stay for a long time. Lin You just looked at it. I don't know if it was because of the mismatch between the regions, but he couldn't connect to the chat channel in this region, and he couldn't even use the leaderboards and various regional functions. That is to say, they can only be regarded as outsiders to this area. In case a person who is not in control of this world is found out, they may not be able to fly, and the longer they stay, the more dangerous they will be. Therefore, the few of them did not hesitate, and they hurried to the outskirts of the forest with their respective units. After half an hour, the group finally left the forest and came to a huge clearing outside the forest. The surrounding area was very wide, enough to accommodate 4 territories, so they gradually stopped and began to prepare. When parting, Yanwu found Lin You. Lin You. Yanwu's expression was solemn and his eyes were serious. Don't say anything else, you gave me this life. If I can leave alive this time, there is something I can help in the future, even though find me. For Lin You, Yanwu is very grateful. If Lin You hadn't told him about the blockade of the area and invited him to act together, he would have been kept in the dark and eventually trapped in that area. This kindness is equivalent to the grace of regeneration. Okay, I will. Lin You nodded with a smile, not rejecting Yanwu's good intentions, but this time we are teleported to the primitive continent. We will probably randomly assign locations. If we can still be assigned nearby, then the time will come. Let's work together again. When they first came to this world, is a randomly assigned position. Now that they are teleported to the real primitive continent, no one can tell where they will be teleported, and what kind of danger will be waiting for them. Yin Tiange, who was on the side, heard their conversation and walked over and said, Indeed, we don't know anything about the primitive continent. If we are fortunate enough to be able to teleport together, we can work together again, so that we can take care of it. At this time, Yin Tiange's face had returned to his usual warm smile, and he looked like a spring breeze. And when he said this, his eyes mainly fell on Lin You. After all, Lin Yu's strength is obvious to all, and cannot be ignored. What's more, in this dangerous world, one more ally is better than one more enemy. Tiange is not stupid, and naturally, he will not miss this opportunity to build a relationship. Lin You is not disgusted by this, and they can be regarded as suffering together. Although it is only a cooperative relationship, it belongs to the same plane anyway. Compared with other people who don't know it, it is always more familiar. He nodded and said, okay, if there is a chance. Tiange smiled even more, then it's settled. Having said that, he turned around and left, looking for an open space in the distance, preparing to liberate the territory. Yanwu chatted with Lin You for a while, and went to the other side to start preparations. Until this time, the remaining Bai Haitang slowly came to Lin You. At this time, the indifference on her face had receded a lot, and she looked at Lin You very seriously. Thank you. Finally, she opened her thin lips lightly and uttered 2 words. Hearing this, Lin You laughed immediately. He knew why the other party thanked him. You're welcome, it's a small effort, and we're partners, aren't we? Partner. Bai Haitang murmured in a daze, her eyes a little dazed. But immediately, she looked at Lin You again and said solemnly, I will remember this kindness. After speaking, she turned around and left. Sure enough, it was still the same as before, cold as frost, cherishing words like gold. Lin You smiled helplessly and didn't think much about it. After saying goodbye to a few people, he also went to a huge open space on the edge of the forest alone, and took out the orb of migration from his personal space. Finally, it's come to this point. Looking at the transfer pearl in his hand, Lin You was in a trance. For this day, he began to prepare half a month ago. Kill monsters, grab resources, and improve your strength as much as possible. Now, he finally achieved his goal and successfully came to another area. Looking back now, it feels very unreal. I don't know what the real primitive continent would look like. Lin You was full of anticipation, but also a little apprehensive. Taking a deep breath, he directly chose to liberate the territory. Do you want to use the migration orb at the current location? Once decided, it cannot be changed. Sure. Lin You answered without any hesitation. In an instant, the orb of migration shattered, and Lin Yu's surroundings were also enveloped by a dazzling light. The territories and plants that were collected in the Pearl of Migration also gradually appeared, returning to their previous appearance. Fortunately, the plants left in the territory are safe and sound. And the moment the territory returned to its original state, the suction appeared again. Congratulations! You have successfully reached the 6th level, the space channel is opened, and the primitive continent is about to be teleported. Please be prepared. When the voice fell, Lin You felt that the surrounding scenery began to blur. What followed was a dizzying feeling of dizziness and a sense of weightlessness. When he came back to his senses again, I found myself floating in a chaotic void. The surrounding area was covered with gray, just like the scene seen in the gray and foggy area, with lightning and thunder, and the space was torn apart. Only the place where he was located was protected by an invisible passage from lightning cracks. Even vaguely, other space passages can be seen, leading straight to the endless sky. This way, we should be able to go to the primitive continent. Lin You couldn't help sighing in his heart, and his expression gradually relaxed. But the next second, he found something. First, he paused, and then the expression on his face suddenly changed. No. This is not the passage to the primitive continent. The moment the voice fell, at the end of the passage he was at, there was a sudden boom, violently surging. In an instant, the entire space shattered. A vast and boundless terrifying mouth appeared above the sky. Like a whale devouring everything, it devours everything around it. Even the end of the passage where Lin You was located was completely annihilated, turning into energy and being sucked into his mouth. The whole sky is full of gusts of wind, lightning, and thunder, like a doomsday catastrophe. Lin Yu's heart trembled. The passageway in this area. It was actually blocked too. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.